Dani Saadu, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
You decided to come back again for another episode on our podcast.
Mate, it's you, Simon, mate. Of course I want to come back.
Your check's in the post, by the way. I think today's episode, we're going to focus on the power of upskilling and reskilling.
Yes, very important topic.
Which quite topical. I think Donald H. Taylor's survey, it was voted the top L&D trend for 2023, something that I know you're really passionate about as well. So I think there's lots of expertise we can share with our guests on this. But I guess just to start, is what's been your expertise or experience of this, or maybe some reticence? I think we've discussed in the past, or my experience has been, you've got internal politics and silos in bigger companies.
Yeah.
It's not straightforward. It's obviously the benefits and so on are well laid out. But it's a big topic right now, isn't it?
It's a massive topic. For me, upskilling and reskilling fundamentally is about helping people to learn.
Yeah.
Fundamentally. And that learning then correlating to performance. Yeah. And there is a strong correlation between good organizational learning and performance. I've actually, I've done that to plug my book, actually. So
love a plug on this one. Dani's got a book coming out. If you want to tell us the title of the book.
Yeah, so I've got a book coming out. I've co-written it with a really good friend of mine. Wrote, the written word isn't necessarily my strength, so he, very much I was kind of late nights of talking over Teams and recording things over Zoom, and he's kind of taken my narrative and a lot of his ideas into co-designing a book with him. He's a really good guy, and the book is called Organizational Learning and Performance: The CapEx Factor. I don't want to say too much, but it'll be out in a few weeks, and it's very much based on this topic we're about to talk about. So something I'm also very, very passionate about, and like I said, upskilling and reskilling is fundamentally about getting people to learn. And turning that learning into performance, and when you do that really well, the organization, the individual performs, the team performs, and the business and the organization performs. And the other thing as well is that it's what people want. You'll see studies from like McKinsey, CIPD, global studies show that when you look at the top 3 things people want from an organization, always. In that top 3, it's ranked in different order, but one of the things is either continuous development or some form of learning, being able to learn and grow. So it's so important.
And I guess, it's not a new concept. This has been around for a long time. Yeah. Why do you think it's suddenly a lot more in the spotlight? I mentioned at the top of the episode that it's the top learning trend and lots of surveys for 2023. Why do you think it's suddenly such a big thing for L&D teams to get right? Why are people suddenly clicking on to the benefits of this? Like, why now is probably the question.
It stems to what we've spoken about before, me and you. COVID has had a big impact on this. So what's happened is, like I said, COVID has just shined a spotlight on a lot of people challenges within the people and culture space, and it just accelerated stuff. So what has happened is because there's such a competition for talent right now, and in this current environment, you can't just always rely on going to the external market to bring talent in. Yeah, it's more costly, especially as we're in this economic crisis where we're going through recession. You have to be more cost effective as a business. So just going out and relying on the external market is not going to be what makes your business successful. You need to be able to retain and maximize the talent you currently have, more so than ever.
Yep.
So there's a real spotlight on enhancing the skills of the existing talent pool that you have. Yeah, and the word talent has become so important now. Right, and actually you're seeing the word more around talent development than it being learning and development now. So that's kind of the shift of where it's going from learning and development to talent development. And that upskilling and reskilling is key. So it's about really identifying and being really clear on what is your strategy as a business, where are you going over the next 4 or 5 years, whatever your strategy spans over, and thinking, okay, what are the skills my people, the people in my organization need to be able to deliver on that strategy, and getting ahead of it to making sure that you create the right internal development programs and frameworks and content so people get those skills so that you can deliver on that business strategy. The other thing as well is that just because people are trained in a particular skill doesn't mean that they're gonna keep that skill long term.
Or that's what they want to do even sometimes.
Yeah. So for example, I've been accredited. 4 or 5 years ago, I was accredited as an agile coach. Yeah. So I immersed myself in the world of agile and became an agile guru. I did a refresher of my accreditation 2 years ago because I started to forget the stuff I learned.
Absolutely.
So the reskill is what I'm talking about. Yeah. So you need to be able to reskill your organization, because sometimes they
stuff
forget,
changes.
stuff changes, you need to update. So it's not just about upskilling, you also need to make sure that you're reskilling as well.
And especially with technology, I mean, there's lots of stuff about AI again, I think was number 2 on the survey.
Oh.
So there's a ton of reskilling going on there, whether it be,
100%, 100%.
I think there's lots of
100%,
industries panicking there with.
100%. In the book that I've co-written with my friend, we talk about this 4th industrial revolution that talks about the introduction of AI and what it's going to mean for the world, and how machine learning is going to change L&D and learning moving forward. And if companies don't kind of get ahead of this and start to think about how that is going to impact how they create a learning culture, they could be left behind. So it's something that I'm massively passionate about and an advocate of thinking about how you can use machine learning and AI to enhance learning and development.
And how do you think it's going to change? I mean, without giving away your book too much, because people want you to buy it.
It's true. I think what people need to think about is, I feel learning and development professionals are going to become more like conductors as time goes on. They're not going to be the ones to necessarily deliver the learning, but they're going to be the ones to facilitate and conduct an orchestra, right? And they're going to be the ones to ensure that there is a multi-channel approach to learning through different mediums. Yeah, and making sure they've got the best medium and the best content for their organization for what they're looking for. And AI is going to be part of that. So machine learning, and what we mean by that is people being able to interact with learning and the thing they're interacting with, learn from them, and be able to offer them the best content for bespoke to them, for their needs and what and for how they like to learn. That's where we're going. And if you can introduce that into your learning, that is just going to engage people into learning more and more. One of the biggest challenges that there is within the learning and development world, and I saw this in the latest CIPD learning report, is that people are not engaged in learning like they used to be. The hybrid working world that we've now kind of introduced as a result of COVID is making access and engagement to learning harder than ever. Yeah, because as a learning professional, you need to be able to balance people who are working in the office and working remotely. And people who are working remotely, when they're working remotely, don't necessarily want to engage with learning. They want to just get their head down and do work.
It's quite similar to a Teams call.
Exactly. It's harder to engage them in learning.
Agreed.
So I feel that anything we can do to enhance and to engage people in learning, and I think that AI aspect is powerful, because imagine you're interacting with an AI, with machine learning, and you can see that actually it's starting to personalize how it interacts with you and personalizes your learning kind of journey and stuff based on the responses you're giving it. That's quite powerful stuff.
And I think from my experience, I think there's more pressure on, I think you're slightly different, you're in the office a bit more, but when we have office days, there's more pressure for those to be meetings or collaboration. So the idea of people doing digital learning at their desk, well, I could do that, I could do that at home. Why have I come in the office for that? But then when you're at home, it's like, well, this is just like another Teams call. So that can fall through the cracks, can't it?
It can fall through the cracks. It can fall through the cracks. I think the other thing as well is that because of this hybrid working world we are in, learning professionals need to find they need to have multiple channels to how they upskill and reskill people. You can't just, so face-to-face, how people say face-to-face is dead. It's not that it's dead. It's such a small component now of the L&D off the
it's
learning.
Still on the menu, isn't it?
Yeah, still on the menu, but to drive good organizational learning, face-to-face is a small component of that. You need to really think about how you can incorporate maybe some AI, some machine learning, but video, e-learning, podcasts, webinar,
coaching, mentoring,
mentoring. You need a whole menu of different learning if you really want to upskill and reskill businesses. And I think one of the reasons why a lot of learning professionals struggle to do good upskilling and reskilling is because they don't capitalize on the different channels that they can use when it comes to organizational learning and L&D and stuff.
Perfect. And I guess because you've had 2 roles where I think you've done this really well. What's been the recipe to your success, I guess, in terms of getting upskilling and reskilling right? Because I think there's lots of, in my experience, examples of people, different teams not wanting. Let's say someone on their team wants to lead you to another team, because they want to progress, but that manager thinks, well, I've lost a good person now, and they almost treat another team as a competitor almost. or maybe the business wants to upskill certain people in certain ways, but that's not what someone wants to do or specialize in. It's not always straightforward, is it? I guess there's things to consider when you've got.
Yeah, there is. I think you need to find the balance between satisfying the business need and the organizational need of the upskilling and reskilling, and also satisfying the individual.
Yes, and they're not always the same, are they?
And they're not always the same, but that's where being really clear on what most companies will have some form of business strategy, something that they're looking to achieve over over a certain time period, and you need to be able to diagnose what are the skills that are going to be needed to deliver on that business strategy. And once you're clear on that, you then create a kind of learning strategy and put programs and frameworks in place to deliver on that. But also you need to ensure that there's good, strong talent management happening. Coinciding, working together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because getting that balance right is what's key. Because if you've got the kind of if you're ensuring that actually you've identified those skills that are going to satisfy that business strategy the company's trying to implement, and you've incorporated them into kind of organizational learning and learning programs, as well as getting the talent management right, then you'll get people who are excited and want to put themselves forward to be upskilled and reskilled, and also you'll get buy-in from senior leaders that will give you the kind of resources and the budget to put the best programs together. And I think it's that balance you need to get right.
And what's, in your experience, been some pitfalls of this you've seen or traps people have fallen into with this and getting it wrong?
Not getting buy-in from senior leadership around what are the skills that actually should be upskilled or reskilled.
Yeah, but just being clear on them as well.
Yeah, just being clear on them. I think the other thing as well is not being able to then have good talent management with people who put themselves forward to be upskilled and reskilled. And what I mean by that is that you should be having good career conversations. So people should have good personal development plans, PDPs. So they're really clear on, within my role, I want to get here, what are the skills I need to get there? And what there's the programs that are offered.
And there's no surprises, basically.
Yeah, what programs are on offer for me to get there? A good, clear career pathway, to link you to where you want to get to, right? And that's really key as well.
Yeah.
So what you see is sometimes people focus too much on the kind of, right, we need to get this organizational kind of skills and upskilling, but they don't then focus on the kind of the individual talent management and getting people kind of engaged and motivated to kind of take on that development and training, if that makes sense.
Yes, or often I've seen sometimes like some short-termism for managers. So they've got someone who's really high performing in a certain part of their team, and they want, like you said, you're an agile coach. Maybe you said, I want to do something else, and someone said, but Danny's our agile coach, so we've got someone else to do that role now, and that's an effort for me to do that as a business. So it's that mentality, isn't it, and making sure that people's wishes are honoured, I guess, as well.
Yeah, I think it's not trying to also pigeonhole people just for your for kind of your benefit.
Yes. Even subconsciously, maybe.
Even subconsciously. I think there's also a thing around, this is where if you do this right, you can create a what we call a talent marketplace.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So talent marketplace is where you have an internal, instead of going externally to buy talent, you create your own marketplace where you can exchange talent within the business and get reward and recognition for it. So, for example, let's say there is a software development team, and they're looking for a junior web designer, for example, right? Okay, and they advertise, this is the job, these are the skills that are involved, right? And there is somebody from the marketing team who goes, you know something, I've got those transferable skills. I fancy that, right? And they go for it, and they get the job. Instead of historically paying a recruitment agency or paying a high fee to bring in somebody externally, they would literally kind of cross-charge the marketing team.
Yeah, reward it.
Yeah, they would reward the marketing team with something because they've now given somebody from their team over to that, to that software development team. And what you then have is this internal kind of marketplace and mobility of talent moving around.
And it stops that kind of the jealousy between teams. Or
it does, but also you retain talent. So you get a situation where the organization is known for opportunity to kind of move within your career and maximize people and leverage talent, and you keep people longer because actually they know they can go and do this, they can go and do that.
It's good people to see it, isn't it? 100%. You see a colleague change role, think,
100%.
They probably wouldn't have got that job externally because they didn't have the experience, maybe.
100%.
But they're trusted and they're a good cultural fit and whatever.
100%. And also if you do this really well, let's say this person from marketing wanted to go and join the software development team and be this kind of junior web person. They'll say, well, actually, you've got 80% of the skills, but you're missing 20% of the skills. We come and join us, and we will train you on the other bit.
Yeah.
We'll upskill you on the other bits.
Yeah.
And you can do the role, right? Which is much better, right? Because this person is thinking, you've given me the opportunity to go and do this job. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm going to be engaged. I'm already a cultural fit because I know the business. So you don't have to stress about that.
There's less risk there.
There's less risk there. And also you give me the opportunity to do, to kind of follow my dream and to do something I'm really interested in. So you get more engagement, more commitment from that person. And obviously it's less of a cost because you're not having to go externally. So this is where the kind of upskilling and reskilling, if it's done really well, you can actually create an internal talent marketplace.
And especially when I think we had a previous episode about attracting talent.
Yeah.
If that's so becoming increasingly difficult,
you can use that as part of your EVP to put your employer branding out there. Imagine you've got somebody in the organization telling their story about how they've literally worked in 2 or 3 different departments and the skills they've picked up working in these 2 or 3 departments, and now they are this kind of specialist. And they're actually, their next role is they've already got a next one. They're going to be working in one of their other international locations as a result of the way the company operates. Imagine you put that out as an employer branding. You go on LinkedIn, you see that, you're like, I want to work there. What do you mean? I want to work there.
It gets more loyalty as well, doesn't it?
100%.
Because I've worked in a few different video arts, a few different roles, and you have more loyalty to the brand.
Yeah.
When they've trusted you to take on different roles and maybe get more experience, it pays dividends, isn't it?
I think the other thing to also think about when it comes to upskilling and reskilling is how you can create this learning culture of where people can drive their own self-development.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Having platforms, having channels where people can drive their own learning. So, I'm not looking to plug anything, but I've got a really good relationship with LinkedIn, and LinkedIn Learning is such a good platform. For example, it's got thousands of online training content where you can just go in, create your own playlist, download content, do training yourself. And even if you don't use LinkedIn Learning, there are platforms that organizations can buy that have a very similar functionality. And that kind of self and continuous development when it comes to upskilling and reskilling, I think is something that's really key. People are very much about having things on the go. Yeah. Especially in this world where everything is on your smartphone and you have access to everything, on your smartphone and through the internet and social media. Having a platform where you can do things on the move and on the go and just learn things really quickly, and that in the moment learning, micro learning of listen, I've been given a task, I want to do this, but I don't know how to do it. Let me just quickly go on this, search for 2 minutes. Okay, I know how to do it now, and then go back to your work. Is something that is probably a lot more common now when it comes to learning than sitting in a classroom and doing training.
Yeah, learn the flow works just
yeah. And what we call that is learning in flow. Yeah.
Perfect.
So learning in workflow.
And I guess this obviously it dovetails nicely with retaining talent, but is there anything else in terms of upskilling and reskilling that maybe touches on retaining people that you've done at Collinson or Hunter that's been really critical? Because I think you've got a really good retention rate at both companies you've had, and people want to work for you. So I guess any tips to share with people watching? Ingredients on retaining your best people.
Yeah.
It's a hot topic again at the moment for everybody.
Yeah, I think the another tip I would say is that you need to employ learning professionals that really care about learning and really are passionate about providing the best learning experience for their people. And what I mean by that is, what experience is the learner getting? And you need somebody who really cares about learning to provide the best learning experience. And I think that was one of the things that was really important to me. To have a really strong band as a learning team, that we really cared about our people and that we were really positive, we were really inspirational, and we wanted to see people fulfill their potential. Because if you get a bunch of people who have that kind of mindset, the kind of learning and frameworks and programs and content you can create is phenomenal, even with a small team. So one of the things people used to say to me regularly is, you must have a really big team to do all of this. And I go, no, not really. And that's because if you get like-minded people who are really passionate and really driven and care about creating a real good learning culture and can see the importance of what a learning culture can bring to an organization, you're onto a real, it's a no-brainer for me.
Perfect. Okay, and in order to recap our episodes with Live and Learn, we always talk about a lesson learned or a funny mistake or error you made? Especially, I know you're big on growth mindset, Danny. We
Yeah,
did a
yeah,
webinar
yeah.
on it
Yeah.
last year, I think it was.
Yeah.
In terms of upskilling and reskilling, if you were to go back in time or looking back on your career, is there a lesson you've learned in that context that you would like to share with people who, again, maybe are doing it the first time or are being tasked with, the C-suite who said to them, upskilling and reskilling, get on that, with no other direction, and they're a bit lost to know what to do next?
What I learned later on in my career as a learning professional is that if you want to advocate and promote upskilling and reskilling, you need to have the mindset of wanting to do it for yourself.
Yeah, good example. Yeah.
So what I mean by that was that you need, as a learning professional, should constantly be pushing themselves out of their comfort zone to learn and acquire new knowledge.
Lead by example.
To lead by example. Yeah. So in the last 6-7 years, the amount of skills I didn't know that I've pushed myself. So, for example, when it came to finance, commercial acumen, business acumen, it was like a foreign language to me. Yeah,
I wouldn't have thought that.
It absolutely, it would scare me,
yeah,
right?
Interesting.
So I put myself through a kind of basic finance accounting course, and from that just took it on one step further, and then became a bit of a guru and an expert. And now I can actually train people on accounting and finance. Which something, if I had said this to you 8 years ago, you'd be like, what? So it's that kind of, I feel you as a learning professional, you need to make sure that you are up to date with the latest skills, technology, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone to acquire new skills and concepts so that you can then translate that and be an advocate for people to be upskilling and reskilling. Because if you're not living and breathing it, why are people going to listen to you?
They're quite right.
And also, are you going to be able to provide the best upskilling and reskilling programs if you're not somebody who lives and breathes that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that would be my learning.
Perfect. Well, Dani, pleasure as always. Thank you for coming on again to our show.
Thank you for having me.
And being very generous with your time. And big thank you from the Video Arts team as always.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.